Keeping your nutrition as flexible as possible for as long as possible during your journey or your prep is of utmost importance. So many ladies, athletes, you know, overly restrict themselves during their journey. They overthink nutrition. They really do complicate it for themselves. And, it always leads, to mental health issues, bad relationship with food, eating disorder habits. And that is obviously something that we want to avoid throughout a prep, throughout any cutting phase that you're doing for a prolonged period of time. So sustainability is, obviously the number one, key factor along with consistency in order to succeed, really succeed and stay healthy in this journey. All right. So what does that look like? What do you need to do? So if you adhere to the plan, if you're really truly someone that is going to put in the work, you're going to follow the plan, not just 50 or 70%, but 100%, especially when you're obviously working with someone like us, we make it a point during, especially the first, I would say, 80-90% of your prep, to make it as sustainable, as flexible, as variety filled as possible, for you to have multiple choices of protein, carbs, fats, fruits, veggies. You have a fun food allowance. We give you, food freedom essentially, to choose the foods that you enjoy eating, that you prefer eating, that you love eating, and have it as a part of your, your meal plan, and your journey throughout majority of your prep. I want you to understand the basics of fat loss, okay? The premise, the fundamentals of fat loss is all we need to successfully do is to create a calorie deficit and follow a sustainable way of, obviously dieting down, and do that for a prolonged period of time while seeing measurable results. The goal is to eat as many calories as possibly, essentially, while seeing great fat loss results, measurements, visual, obviously visual results, and obviously the scale weight dropping. So it's not about starving yourself and eating as little, calories as possible. It's actually about moving as much as you can so that you can eat as much as possible while still getting great results. Okay, that is the ideal, game plan. But the only way, we are going to reach our fat loss goals is to create that calorie deficit, essentially burning more calories throughout our movement and our non-exercise activity throughout the course of the day, and more importantly, the course of the week, versus the calories that we consume through, obviously our foods, our, liquids, whatever nutrition we take in on a daily and a weekly basis. Okay. So when it comes to creating sustainability, so many times athletes, think because they have to get ready for stage that eating less is better, choosing only the leanest, cleanest foods 100% of the time is the best strategy, or it's the way it has to be done because they see other people do it. But in all honesty, okay, a plan that has variety and is filled with flexible options, but is, perfectly executed when it comes to obviously a calorie count, protein intake, specific macro, obviously target, and you can 100% adhere to that, it's going to far, how can I say, result in better results, because it's something that you can adhere to, something that's enjoyable, something that's sustainable, something that is not forcing you to not, be social, or not spend time with friends, or not go out to dinner, or not, obviously, enjoy, time with friends and family, or, be a part of certain events during the year because you have to eat out of a Tupperware, or you have to have clean food 100% of the time. That is definitely not needed. Yes, you have to follow your calorie target. Yes, you have to get an adequate protein, which is generally, prescribed to you. Yes, you need to get, at least a certain amount of essential fats in on a daily basis. Yes, you need to follow a 80-20, principle, where 80% at least of the total food, the calories that you consume on a daily and a weekly basis, come from healthy, nutritional, dense foods. And 20% or less of those total calories can go towards absolutely anything you desire, whether that's more whole foods, whether that's fun foods, whether that's, obviously a glass of wine a few nights a week, whether that's, eating out with friends, whether that's saving that up and having a refeed meal, once a week, to kind of like, recharge your mind, your mental health, whatever that looks like. As long as you stick within those parameters, okay, you can be as flexible as possible. So when we create your meal plans, we give you a guideline, a structured meal plan, generally with, obviously plenty of protein options, carb options, fat options, fruit options, veggie options, a fun food allowance. But sometimes, clients will be so hard on themselves and get into such a restrictive, obviously, mindset that they don't have any creativity when it comes to their foods. They veer away from, choosing and, selecting variety when preparing their foods. At the end of the day, it is, of utmost importance. So for example, if there's a protein in your meal plan, but you for whatever reason want to consume a different protein that is clean, that is healthy, that you can control the calories with, feel free to swap protein for protein. Feel free to swap carb for carb. Feel free to swap fat for fat. Feel free to incorporate, obviously other whole foods that might not be exactly stipulated on your plan, as long as it is a whole food, a clean, nutritional, dense, obviously source of nutrition. You can very easily, swap out proteins for proteins, carbs for carbs, fats for fats, as long as at the end of the day, you are within those parameters, meaning you've hit your calorie goal, meaning you've, consume adequate protein, you've at least gotten the minimal amount of fats in prescribed, and the rest of your calories you can play around with, and 80% of the foods during the day and during the week, comes from whole foods, and 20% less comes from fun foods. You can pretty much eat whatever you want to, stay within those parameters for 80-90% of, your prep, your journey, and still see phenomenal, obviously results, maximum results. Yes, of course, let's say, for example, 12 weeks out, 8 weeks out from stage, if you've really adhered to everything, we need to now obviously start cleaning up a little bit. The variety will fall off, the fun food allowance will become cleaner or drop away. And we need to maybe incorporate different, ways of, dieting down, drop calories and just kind of like, clean out the variety a little bit, if need be, But if you adhere to everything to the T and your body is responding, you can keep variety in literally until, the last week or two, before stage. Of course, nothing is perfect, nothing is linear. Results, it's not necessarily always so black and white. And somewhere down the line, we drop back a week or two, or we miss the mark slightly and we might fall behind, obviously a few weeks. And that's generally when we have to start restricting a little bit more, cleaning up a little bit sooner, making sure that, we get ready in time. And then maybe, yes, the variety has to, fade away slightly. We have to be more specifics with the proteins that we consume, the carbs that we consume, the fats that we consume, the veggies that we consume, the amount of fruits that we consume, make sure that our calories once again is perfect, maybe have a less of a fun food allowance, or, take that away, for a few weeks to make sure that we're going to be ready in time. But outside of that phase, which is right at the end of your prep, generally speaking, you can have complete food freedom, full variety, enjoy, different protein sources, enjoy different fat sources, enjoy different carbohydrate sources, different veggies, different, obviously fruits, different foods in your diet. Swap out proteins and proteins, carbs for carbs, fats for fats. Be creative with your foods. Swap and play around with your combination of choices. You get what I'm trying to say? Have different proteins with different carbs on some days, and then swap around, different fats for, different proteins, and, just, play around with, the way you present your food, prepare your food, the creativity that you bring into, your food selections. And I promise you, your journey is going to be so much more enjoyable. stay away from being too restrictive and too crazy about, obviously, perfect, how can I say, clean, no variety, restrictive type of dieting from too early on. Okay? Yes, you might think in your mind, I'm an athlete, I need to do this, I need to be obviously as strict as possible. But it's not about being restrictive, it's about being disciplined and following and staying within the parameters. Stick to your game plan. At the end of the day, the most important part of your diet, hitting your calorie target, okay, getting your steps up in your activity, goes without saying. That has to be hit. Your training, that is prescribed to your cardio that's given to you, your steps, to ideally be 10,000 and above per day. If that is all done properly, as long as you can hit your calorie goal, you can get adequate protein, you can hit your minimal, obviously, fat intake for the day, and your, the rest of your daily and, weekly calories is 80% coming from whole foods, 20% less coming from fun foods, you will see unbelievable results all the way through, guaranteed. All right, so don't complicate this journey. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. Don't restrict yourself, too soon or at all until you're told, listen here, now we have to cut back. Now we have to get, very specific with the foods that we choose to eat. Now let's eliminate certain options, because there is a new specific goal for that last phase of your prep, and we have to take it a little bit more serious. And now we have to restrict slightly and make more sacrifices in order to be ready. But before that conversation happens, enjoy your food, have food freedom, enjoy flexible and a variety approach as much as you can. All right, hope that helps. Let me know. God bless.